Bonjour les amis. Bonjour. Bienvenue à Paris. Welcome to Paris. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining me today at sunset in Paris. This is the end of a challenging year. 2021 is wrapping up in a few hours. And even if many celebrations have been canceled in the city, I thought I would do something special for all of you who love Paris and love France, for all of you who haven't been able to return to Paris. Thank you for confirming the sound is good. And what is better than taking you on a cruise, a Seine river cruise. You know me, I tend to go off the beaten path in Paris. That's what I've done for 18 months in my virtual tours, and you can find all of those on my YouTube channel, Friends with Véro. But today it is the end of the year. It is New Year's Eve, and I know many of you will enjoy the sights on what remains one of the most fun things to do in the French capital. So we are on a boat, clearly. We are on the Seine River on a boat, and I have picked one of the companies that handle those Seine River cruises. I chose les Bâteaux Mouches. Mouche, M-O-U-C-H-E, which is spelled, it's like a fly in French, and some people think it's because some of the older boats look like flies in the front, but it's not. You see the name of the company right here. I chose this company because it was the first company that ran Seine River cruises right after World War II. A very entrepreneurial gentleman named Jean Bruel got his hand on one of the boats, old boats, that had been used during one of the world fairs Paris hosted in the 19th century, and that boat came from a neighborhood in Lyon, the third largest city in France, and that neighborhood was known as Mouche. So what he did was to get one of these boats. And he started running tours on the Seine River, and they were quite revolutionary at the time because they were tours that didn't stop anywhere. And they went in a loop. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. I am going to take you on a Seine River cruise, whether you've done 1 or 10 or 20. I am a tour guide. I've done quite a few, as you can imagine. They're always fun. They're always interesting. And the best time to do them is at sunset or at night. That's my advice for you if you've never done one. Paris is gray very often, lots of gray skies here. Here is one of the boats returning at the end of the cruise. It will go over there by the Eiffel Tower and it will come back here to the dock. That's what we will be doing. So if you have an hour to spend with me, a little over an hour, feel free to stay. I hope my battery holds up. If it doesn't, we will give it a good try. And we are leaving the dock, friends. We are on the right bank, leaving the dock on to our big fluvial adventure. Welcome to Paris, welcome to France. This is France with Véro, your best French friend in France. Tour guide, virtual tour guide, French language instructor. Thank you for those of you who've been with me since I started this business of mine 18 months ago. We've traveled all over Paris and all over France together. And tonight is no exception. Bonjour and welcome if you just joined us. On we go. On we go, friends. Let's wrap up this challenging year in style, shall we? I will say a hello a little later. For now, I think you'd rather see Paris than my face. Bonsoir, I see you are from all over, and I am thrilled. I hope the commentary from the boat doesn't override my voice. They speak in several languages, and I can't really understand what they're saying. So hopefully you can hear me. I will point out a few landmarks, like the American church in front of us, a church and a cultural center, big place for the American expat community. The Eiffel Tower, you will get to see, if you stick with me until the end of this cruise, you will get to see it much better. And this is the dock we just left, the Bâteaux Mouches. So for those of you who need orientation, hello, Papa. My father is here and my mom cheering me on. For those of you who need some orientation, the right bank is right here, the Seine River, and the left bank where the Eiffel Tower is located. Yeah, you will get to see my face a little later. Don't worry, I always say a quick hello, right? All right, so here we are. Paris has 37 bridges downtown spanning the Seine River. We're going to see quite a few of them, and in fact, let's play a game. If you recognize some of the bridges by name, just leave the name in the comment section. That'll be fun. We'll see if some people disagree. That would be even more fun. You know this one? Anybody? Le Pont des Invalides. It's one of the lowest ones on the Seine River. Check this out. The Seine's pretty high. Look how low this bridge is. Whee! All right, so just some information for you. If cell coverage gets iffy, I will keep filming. So keep coming back and I will keep filming. I can't control cell coverage. I will do my best and I'll get you back to the dock if I can. In front of us is another famous bridge, probably the most beautiful, most ornate bridge in Paris, the Pont Alexandre III, the Alexander III bridge, built like several buildings around it for the World Fair of 1900. This includes the two buildings on the left here, the Grand Palais, currently in renovation, and it will take several years to get it back to where it was and improve the Grand Palais. And on the right-hand side over there, Le Petit Palais. All of these were built for the 1900 World Fair. The bridge, of course, was a token named after Alexander III of Russia, so a token of friendship between France and Russia. Paris hosted, listen to the people cheering, they're going under the bridge. Woohoo! Very nice. So as you probably know, the city of Paris has done a lot of work on the quays by the water. So many years ago, there used to be a lot of cars along the Seine River. It really wasn't pedestrian friendly, but over the last few years, the quays have been pedestrianized like many other sections in Paris, and now you can see people jog, run, bike, stroll, and then they have interesting places along the river as well. You have some bars and restaurants, and that happens on both sides, on the left bank and on the right bank. I'm going to show you more of the left bank right now because we are going in this direction, and then on the way back I will point at things on the other side. How about that? I see we have a few scammers on the stream. Do not click those links you see pop up. Just stay on the stream, please. Welcome if you just joined us. This is Véro, France with Véro, and I decided to wrap up the year in style, in Paris no less, with you all, with this community on a Seine River cruise. Here is a beautiful view of the Alexander III Bridge and the Grand Palais, currently under renovation, with the French flag, the tricolore on top of it. By the time we return, By the time we return, it will be dark and very pretty. We are reaching now several buildings currently under renovation. That's Paris for you right now. On the right-hand side is the Palais Bourbon, where the French legislative branch of the government, the National Assembly, sits right here. And across this bridge, le Pont de la Concorde, the Place de la Concorde, another scaffolding over there where the obelisk that came from Egypt, all the way from Egypt in the 19th century, is located. We are riding today with les Bâteaux Mouches. They're having fun. La Compagnie des Bâteaux Mouches, the oldest one operating on the river since 1949. That is why it shows them. Here is again where the National Assembly sits on the left bank. You're going to see some pretty real estate. Bonjour and welcome. Quite busy, the river. Look ahead of us. You see all these boats? Today is a big day for tourism because so many of the celebrations, like the fireworks, have been cancelled. I think the Seine River cruises are quite popular today. This is the Bâteau Bus, and the Bâteau Bus is like a bus on the water. You can take it and then stop at 9 different places on the river. It's got quite fun. Look at this impressive building here. Look at this. Imagine living there. Imagine the view in the morning, looking at the right bank. So again, I'm showing you this side for now, the left bank, and then when we go back in the other way, I will show you the other side. Well, I certainly hope you are enjoying this treat. It's a treat for me as well. I haven't done a Seine River cruise since my last Rick Steves tour in 2019. For those of you who don't know, I trained to become a Rick Steves tour guide in 2019 and got to lead a few tours, and of course nothing happened in 2020. I became a virtual tour guide, but I'm hoping that in 2022 I'll be returning on the road with Rick Steves, as well as continuing those virtual tours with Friends with Véro. And here we reach a footbridge named after a gentleman who was a very well-known writer and poet in his country of Senegal. Senghor is the name of the footbridge. It's named after him. And behind it, look at that. Behind it, the place where you can learn about one of France's most prestigious awards called the Legion of Honor, created by Napoleon I. This is this building here you can visit. And right here, another prestigious building in Paris, you'll hear me say that a lot tonight, the famous Orsay Museum that opened in the 1980s and is dedicated to 19th century art and in particular Impressionism. One thing you may not know is that this was of course originally a train station. It looks like a train station. And it was built at about the same time, that train station, as the Alexander III Bridge, the Grand Palais, the Petit Palais, for the 1900 World Fair. You can see it says on the facade below the clock, Paris, Orléans. And this is how people from the rest of France came to the World Fair in 1900. Eventually the train station was abandoned. But today there is a station right beneath the museum. It's actually a big transportation hub. And I know many of you have been at Orsay. They constantly have exhibits and of course permanent collections that are well worth a visit. I see that in Enfin le Cinéma there was an exhibit I didn't see. And it ends on January 16th. I still have time to catch it. And we keep going. On the left here is the Louvre. You will see it better on the way back. The Tuileries Gardens and the big Ferris wheel where the fairgrounds are for the holidays. More bridges. Feel free to leave the bridges' names if you recognize them. That's fun. Something funny, yeah, in English you say d'Orsay instead of musée d'Orsay. In French we say Orsay, we don't say d'Orsay. We just call it Orsay. Bridges are a big hit with passengers, aren't they? The Louvre, this former royal palace turned museum after the French Revolution, constantly changing. Thank you for sending stars my way. I see them pop up now. As you know, these tours, these virtual tours I do for free on Facebook are tip supported. When the video, the replay pops up on Facebook, you'll be able to find information about my virtual tip jar on PayPal at France with Véro. All donations gratefully accepted, of course. Thank you for the stars, that helps too. It helps me run this business, it helps me offer more free tours. Look, you're leaning over. You're almost swimming in the Seine. Now, have you heard what's happening with the Seine River? The city of Paris has been saying for years they want to make it swimmable again. It's been prohibited to swim. Prohibited to swim in the Seine River since the 1920s because it was so polluted. And in recent years they've done a lot of work, the fish has returned, and they're hoping that the opening ceremony of the Summer Olympics in 2024 is going to be along the Seine River, on the Seine River in fact, and that a few years after that everybody will be able to swim in the Seine again. I think I will let testers and athletes go first before I try it personally. I don't know about you. But the Seine has always been the lifeline of this city, brought great prosperity as well as danger, in fact, to the city. Danger came from the river on many occasions. You can see the stalls of the bouquinistes, the used book vendors in those green boxes. They've really struggled through They've really struggled through the confinement, through the lockdowns we've had. It's been really hard for them. I hope they're not that many, and I hope they're still here next year, some of them. This is the famous Pont des Arts, which is not as old as it looks. Like most Parisian bridges, the original version was built a long time ago and eventually disappeared. This one dates back to the 80s. And it stands right next to l'Institut de France, this organization where many of France's elite intellectuals, artists, scientists can meet. Several academies, including the famous Académie Française, in charge of protecting the French language and writing a dictionary and encyclopedia of the French language since the 17th century. The Museum of Fine Arts is nearby. Let's peek. It's pretty. Let's look at the Pont des Arts. You see it next to the Louvre. Look how pretty it is. If you want to see the original bridge, several arches of the original bridge, you need to go out where I used to live in the Val-de-Marne, east of Paris, to a lovely city called Nogent-sur-Marne. You can ride the RER train, line A, to Nogent, and you get to step, actually to walk, on the original Pont des Arts. More gorgeous facades here, and the boats. So I don't know if you realize this, but the Seine is still a commercial river. You do see barges, commercial barges on the Seine. And here we are reaching one of the two islands, the largest of the two islands where Paris started more than 2,000 years ago, the Île de la Cité. We will see it better from the other side. And this is the prestigious Pont Neuf, new bridge, that happens to be the oldest one in Paris. Louis IV, who ruled France in the early 17th century, did a lot for the city of Paris. He's the one who commissioned a lot of the things we love about Paris today, including this bridge, which was very modern for the time because it spanned both sides of the river across the island. It had sidewalks where people could stroll without getting all muddy and hit by the carriages. He did a lot more. A royal square. And his statue is on the island, as you know. And this is the magical time in Paris when the lights are coming up at sunset. On the left is still the big Île de la Cité, the former royal palace. This is where French kings ruled from the 10th through the 14th century. The courts of law, the palace of justice were also there, as well as the Sainte-Chapelle, a masterpiece. I'm sure you've all been in there to admire the stained glass art, as well as maybe listen to some concerts of classical music. And we are reaching the Latin Quarter on the left bank, the famous Latin Quarter. Like I was saying, this is the best time to see the Seine River and Paris, especially on a gray day, though today, to be fair, was a gorgeous day. Fairly mild for the season, 15, 16 degrees Celsius in the high 50s. It was lovely, we had sun. It was a nice change from a few days ago. It was very soggy. Look at this glorious architecture. I know a bridge is coming because everyone's chanting. Woohoo! That was fun. Look at these people. I hope you're feeling almost as if you were there or here with me. And there she is, the star of the show, Notre-Dame de Paris. Looking pretty good considering how old that she is and what she's been through in the last few years. You've probably watched a few shows recently in the news telling us that the work is going very well. They have stabilized the structure. It took forever since the dreadful fire of April 2019. And they are working really hard to try and reopen sections of it for the 2024 Olympic Games. Notre-Dame de Paris, over 850 years old. They will rebuild the spire. They are using the same materials that were used back in the day. They've started harvesting the giant oak trees that will be needed to rebuild everything that burned down in the fire. The attic, we call it the forest, la forêt. They will be staying as close as they can to the original design, or what is considered the original design after the modifications of the 19th century by Viollet-le-Duc. I like winter because you can kind of see through the trees. Look at that. We are going under the Ponto double like double. This is the fourth or fifth, I forget, version of this bridge. It was built a long time ago, the original version, to connect the Hôtel Dieu, the hospital that now sits on the other side, was here, and so they tried to connect it, and it was a toll bridge that was vastly unpopular. And you had to pay 2 coins, double, which is why the name. pont au double. You had to give 2 coins to cross it. Of course, this is a much newer version of it. You probably know that all the bridges built in the Middle Ages eventually were destroyed or fell in the river. Why? Because they had buildings on them. They were too heavy. And the Pont Neuf we saw earlier was the first one that had 0 buildings. It was very modern for the time. Let's look at Notre-Dame from the side. Our Lady of Scaffoldings is a more appropriate name right now. But we like her just as she is, don't we? Le pont de l'Archevêché is coming up. They've removed the love locks that used to cling to the railings. Praise the Lord. It's in pretty good shape. No, they're touching. That's pretty high. This is the tip of the island, friends. We've reached the tip of the island, Île de la Cité, the longest of the 2 islands. Behind this wall here is a really great place to see a memorial dedicated to all the people who died in Nazi concentration camps. And a long time ago in the 19th century it was a very popular place. It was the city morgue, and people came here to watch the show, if you see what I mean. But today it's a very moving place, and I urge you to come and see it if you haven't yet. Now you know there's a second island, and that island is called the Île Saint-Louis. Used to be 2 islands that they eventually connected, and all that work was done under Henry IV again. Île de la Cité, a magical place that has been left untouched, most of it, by all the big changes in the 19th century under Napoleon III when they remodeled and modernized the city. So it's quite a magical place where you can stroll and still pretend you are in the 17th century. A lot of the famous buildings on that island were from the 17th century. Sainte Geneviève, Saint Geneviève, that statue, she is the patron saint of our city here. She's rumored to have saved the city in the 5th century against Attila the Hun. She is buried, or her remains can be found on the left bank. On the top of the Montagne Sainte-Geneviève. Another bridge, Pont de la Tournelle. There is Sainte Geneviève looking down on us. Behind her is a renowned restaurant, La Tour d'Argent, the Tower of Silver. Much cheaper at lunch than at dinner time. Not that cheap anytime, but well worth a visit. Imagine the views from up there. À bientôt, Sainte Geneviève. We're about to turn around. I think he's going to go around the small island so we can head back in the other direction. I mean, we do want to see the Eiffel Tower, don't we? This is the Institut du Monde Arabe, Institute of the Arabic World. It is a cultural center, and the views from up there are to die for. The architecture was quite modern at the time when it was introduced in the 80s, and I urge you to visit it as well. Yesterday I took the Friends with Véro patrons to an exclusive stroll down in that direction in Bercy. We went to a really cool museum dedicated to fairgrounds, le Musée des Arts Forains, on YouTube. So I was down there last night, and tonight I'm on this boat with you all, making the most of my stay in Paris before I head back to the Loire Valley, where I moved a few months ago. So let's see, maybe I should make my way to the other side, because we are going to see the turnaround here. This is the tip of the second island, Île Saint-Louis, magical and peaceful most of the time. You can stay there, there are hotels there. I can tell days are getting longer. Notre-Dame in the distance. I'm sure he's about to turn, unless he's taking us to Bercy where we were last night with patrons. Lots of boats. And people do live on the river. There is a marina by the Bastille, Le Pont de l'Arsenal, where barges stay docked several months of the year. And like I was saying earlier, it is also, you see a lot of commercial barges going up and down the river. You still see those. Thank you for all the stars. I see them pop up on my screen. That's very generous. Thank you, I really appreciate that. I do think he's taking us to the eastern section of the Seine. Hey, we might even reach the Marne River, the tributary of the Seine, where I used to live, past Vincennes. That would be fun. I would love guiding a tour there. I know that area pretty well, and it's magical. I'm guessing he's about to turn. Have you heard of the Canal Saint-Martin, one of the Parisian waterways we explored during one of my several of my live tours in 2021? This is exactly where it ends after it makes its way through Paris, through the Bassin de l'Arsenal, the small port I told you about, and this is where it connects with the Seine River, the Canal Saint-Martin. And the marina is right behind there. There's a small lock. Almost a balmy night, really, for December. I could be freezing up here. I think he's definitely taking us to the Marne River. No, not a problem for me. I love that area east of Paris. And some of you might discover it. This is an excellent turnout. Thank you for being here with me today for my last virtual tour of 2021. By the way, if you head to my YouTube channel and subscribe, it's very important, you will find over 85 replays of virtual tours I have run for the last 18 months. I've taken you around Paris, I've taken you around France. Very recently we went to Provence, southern France, and we will be traveling again in 2022. Really looking forward to that. That is why my business is called France with Véro. Aha! The moment has come, friends. We are going to turn. And look, the Metropolitan. Le métro. Perfect timing, merci beaucoup. Metro inaugurated in 1900 as well for the World Fair, or right about that time, with the first line, still named Metro Line number 1, that connected Vincennes to la Porte Maillot, la Porte de Vincennes to la Porte Maillot. Look, there's a Christmas tree left on that barge. We call them Péniche, P-E-N-I-C-H-E, in Péniche. They have a Christmas tree on board. Okay, nighttime now. This is special. We're going to enjoy the second half of the tour even more, I think. I'm going to pick a better spot here. It's a little crowded on this side. Here we go. We are really close to the Gare de Lyon, the train station, the one that takes you to southern France, the southeastern part of France, Nice and so forth, Lyon. there we go. We're now headed back towards the docks of Les Bâteaux Mouches, the company we're riding with today, the oldest river cruise company in Paris since 1949. I haven't told you there's a fun story about that. The gentleman who created the company was a really good marketer. He actually invented a fictional character named Monsieur Mouche and told everybody he was the pioneer of river cruising. And people believed it because one of his friends was a famous journalist who wrote a biography of Monsieur Mouche. And so people were talking about Monsieur Mouche. And then in 1956, they even inaugurated a statue of Monsieur Mouche while inaugurating one of their new boats. So there was a statue of a Monsieur Mouche who never existed, who supposedly, allegedly owned the company named Bâteaux Mouches. How about that? It's a really cool company. I like that. Maybe I'll walk up a little bit. Let's see. Take a little stroll on the boat. You can flaneuring in Paris on boats as well. Let's see if there's a good spot in the middle here. If not, I'll go back. I usually scout before my virtual tours, but this one, of course, I didn't scout for. In fact, to be perfectly honest, I had planned to do something entirely different. Those who have followed me for a while know I like to do things off the beaten path, and I had something planned off the beaten path. And then last minute, I thought, nah, it's New Year's Eve, let's do something that says Paris. So we're doing this now. I think I will take my patrons in January on that other tour when I return to Paris. So patrons, get ready. You will get to see that tour eventually. Off the beaten path. And we are now going to the other side of the Île Saint-Louis, the smaller of the two islands. You know, that's where they have that great ice cream by Bertillon. So there's a debate whether it is still the best ice cream in Paris. I'm not sure it's still the best ice cream in Paris, but it's pretty darn good. And their flavors nobody else has. Long lines, but you don't need to line outside their shop because all the cafes and restaurants serve the Bertillon ice cream on the island. So don't feel like you have to stay or line up outside the store, the boutique. Happy New Year, friends. We have microphones here. I'm going to step away from here then. They speak in 6 languages. I'll go back. This is the Île Saint-Louis.
Presenta una serie di palazzi privati, tra i quali quelli di Lambert e Lausanne.
Bord, beachten Sie die herrschaftlichen Stadthäuser, die Hotels Lambert.
Look at these gorgeous facades. So many of the facades on the Île Saint-Louis date back to the 17th century, and they were 17th century. We call them hôtels particuliers, hôtel, which doesn't mean they were hotels. They just were private mansions belonging to very affluent people. I think the volume is higher. They've raised it. Now you hear the engines. It's better than the speakers. I'm doing my best with logistics here. Look at the people strolling, les flâneurs along the Seine, and you see how there are no more cars here. When I first lived in Paris in the 80s and 90s, there were lots of cars on this road. La Voie Georges Pompidou and so forth. And it was a good thing. I remember we used to have one Sunday a month, or maybe it was every Sunday, I forget, where we could use, there were no cars, but the rest of the time there were lots of cars here. The Marais neighborhood, the 4th arrondissement, is right behind there. Look at that, how festive. Who needs fireworks? We have Paris. We have the lights. have the whoops. I think I pulled the cord, sorry. Here we go. We have the facades of the Ile Saint-Louis.
C'était à l'origine un port, à Grève. C'est là que se créa la municipalité de Paris, à l'époque où tous les commerces et le ravitaillement de Paris
se Not super crowded on the quay, but it's almost 6 p.m. now. I've heard that because of COVID, you know, we have to wear masks outdoors as of today. It's a new thing. COVID numbers are rising, so a lot of people have decided to do some low-key celebrations at home for New Year's. Here is an iconic building in Paris, the beautiful Hôtel de Ville. This has been the center of municipal life since the 14th century. It's been built and rebuilt several times, especially after the big fire that destroyed it during an uprising in the 1870s. So they rebuilt it in the Renaissance style that was his in the 16th century when Francis I, one of the French kings I mentioned a lot in the Loire Valley, originally created that structure, and prepare to be impressed. Look at that. I hope I can film it after the bridge. Voila, like so. So many bridges, so little time, 37 of them. You know how they say Paris is a city of light with no S? Lyon is the city of lights, the city of Lyon. But Paris is a city of light. Lots of scaffolding. On the right-hand side, you have the Place du Châtelet, where a big jail used to be in the Middle Ages. Napoleon took it down. And two famous theaters are there, the Théâtre du Châtelet, le Théâtre de la Ville, under scaffolding. And here is, of course, what's left of the former royal residence until the 14th century, the conciergerie. It was turned into a jail after the 14th century, and the conciergerie is where they kept a lot of prisoners. The police used to be here and is still here. The préfecture, part of the Palace of Justice, has now been moved to the 17th arrondissement. And you are looking at the bigger of the two islands, of course, the Ile de la Cité. We just went around it. Behind this building is a lovely square called La Place Dauphine. Everybody loves it. I guarantee you, if you go, you will love it too. And this is a great view of the famous Pont Neuf, the oldest bridge in Paris that was commissioned by Henry IV, and finished, completed by his son Louis XIII. La Samaritaine. Everybody's heard of La Samaritaine reopening, that big department store that has now been turned into a luxury store and hotel. Lots of coverage on social media. And we have to see, here's another boat company here, the back of the Pont Neuf, and the tip of the island here, the square known as the Square du Vert Galant. Henry IV was a womanizer, and so they called it Le Vert Galant, and it's named after him. And we come back here to the right bank with the Louvre. This is the start of it, and it keeps going and going and going and going until the Tuileries Gardens. A fantastic museum, as you know, but it can be quite overwhelming. I encourage you to hire a licensed tour guide or a company that does Louvre tours. Reach out to me and I can put you in touch with some people if you are interested. It's quite overwhelming if you do it on your own. The Louvre was a royal palace, once a medieval fortress. And then all the kings and emperors and leaders we had transformed it and kept building it and changing it. So it was constantly evolving. The story of the Louvre is quite fascinating, in fact. So why is Paris the city of light, la Ville Lumière? That's because a long time ago in the 17th century, at least that's one of the theories, in the 17th century under Louis XIV, the Sun King, le Grand Siècle as it was called this century, Paris was a very unsafe city, and the king asked the police to take some measures to make the streets a little safer, those old, dark, medieval streets. And so they started placing candles and lights around the streets. Some people put lights, candles in their windows as well as oil lamps. And so people from out of town, when they walked around Paris, French people or foreigners, were really surprised to see all those lights. And so apparently this is where the name came at first, the city of light, la Ville Lumière. But it wasn't until this wasn't until the early 19th century that gas lighting appeared, and those lights they call réverbères, which you still see now, though they have electric light in them, but you had a gentleman lighting them up every night and putting them out in the morning. So this is when Paris really got lit up in the early 19th century, and this is why it earned its nickname, la Ville Lumière. But Lyon deserves that moniker too. And if you ever go to Lyon and attend the Fête des Lumières, the Festival of Lights in early December, you'll understand why. Here is the end of the Louvre. Nothing is left of another palace that was here, right about this section called the Palace of the Tuileries, built by Queen Marie da Medici, where kings and emperors lived. Nothing is left of that following that uprising in the 1870s known as La Commune. It burned to the ground, and they took it down after a few years. Behind this wall are the Tuileries Gardens, which Louis XIV redeveloped with the help of a super team, a team he had met at a competitor's chateau called Vaux-le-Vicomte. Le Nôtre was the name of the landscaper. He designed this garden. Of course, you don't see much from where I'm standing, and I'm sorry about that. He designed this garden in the French style, all the way to the Champs-Élysées up there. Still one of the most elegant parks and gardens in Paris. Quick peek at the left bank. We can't forget the left bank. We saw it earlier, but you know. The Legion of Honor, the Museum of the Legion of Honor is here. The boat is rocky. There's a wake on the river. I wonder what happened. Good thing I'm not seasick. We used to sail in Seattle. Ooh, it is rocky. Look at the wake. Look at that. The ocean. Yeah, it is gorgeous at night, isn't it? So we're back at Place de la Concorde, where a lot of blood was shed during the French Revolution. And we are going to go under the Pont de la Concorde. They actually used stones from the Bastille. When they tore down the Bastille after the Revolution, they actually used stones from the Bastille to build the original version of this bridge. And the obelisk is wrapped up, like I pointed out earlier. You see it there? It's a little package, Christmas package. That's the obelisk. So the Tuileries Gardens end here. The Orangerie Museum is in that building here, if you want to see Monet's water lilies. Another bridge, so much fun! Yay! This is great. I'm having a lot of fun. I hope you're having fun too. I can't wait to have a couple of Rixif stores in Paris and take them on the boat ride. That's something we do at the end of the tour. And look at Miss Eiffel showing up. We're going to get real close in a few minutes. See her on the left? Windy. Choppy Seine River and wind. Thank you for being so generous with the Facebook stars. My tours are tip supported and I really appreciate your donations, either here or on PayPal. Thank you.
À vapeur, hôtel des Invalides. Cet hôtel de mansard abrite aujourd'hui le tombeau de
Les Invalides is at the end of the bridge. You probably won't see it very well here, but it is a complex, almost a city in the city that Louis XIV built for his soldiers. After all, he spent most of his long reign fighting wars, so the least he could do was to build a hospital for his wounded soldiers. It still today operates as a hospital. We are getting very close to the docks where we started, but before they dock, they will take us to the Eiffel Tower, and I hope you can stay with me until then. If not, you can catch the replay later. It will be here on Facebook, like always, and I will upload it on YouTube, where 86 replays await. More tours than the live tours too on YouTube. Market tours, videos in French, a lot of fun stuff, so please subscribe. Help me bring this YouTube channel to the next level, please. Share it with your friends. I'm glad that there were two boats ahead of us because they took the big crowds with them, and this one is not super packed, so we're lucky. Here's the Bâteaux Mouches returning. This is the dock. This boat is doing the dinner cruise. They'll be having fun tonight. I can see the tables. You can do the dinner cruise. This one is too, apparently. They have a lot of things going tonight. Tourism has picked up for sure. Yeah, who knows? I might see some of you on a Rick Steves tour in 2022. That would be fun, wouldn't it? We are coming up to the Pont de l'Alma, she said, and she is correct. And there is a famous gentleman, you will see it as we go by right there on the Pont de l'Alma. His name is the Zouave, Z-O-U-A-V-E. He is dressed the way French infantry soldiers were dressed during the Second Empire when they fought wars for Napoleon III, in Crimea in particular. And this gentleman has been here for a really long time. There used to be several. He had friends with him, but not anymore. And he is the best indicator of rising Seine levels. So when the Seine floods, which it does on a regular basis, we kind of watch, Parisians watch. If the water reaches his ankles, or worse, his knees, then we know it's time to pack our bags and leave the city. I mean, I'm only kidding, but you get the drift. There he is, the Zouave. We're okay now. You see the water is way below his feet. We're good. All right, the star of the show is about to arrive. The second star, because of course Notre-Dame was one as well. Mademoiselle Eiffel, the Eiffel Tower. Beautiful. Inaugurated at the World Fair of 1889. Was not meant to stay. Was quite controversial. It was very hard for Gustave Eiffel to build this tower. And he only saved it when turning it into a radio transmitter of sorts. See that big antenna on top? The most visited site in Paris. They repaint it every 7 years. It's been painted about 19 times, and they started repainting it for the 20th time in 2018. But this time they had a lot more work because they're trying to scrape away some of the old paint to protect the structure. So I'm not sure they quite finished. And they have picked a new color. They used to do custom colors in the brownish tones. The new color is a little bit more golden. And you have 3 different shades. The darker shade at the bottom, it gets lighter to the top so that it really stands out on the gray Parisian skies. So a must see and a must do. Definitely don't listen to guidebooks that tell you it's too touristy. They say the same about boat river cruises, and I hope I have shown you tonight that a Seine river cruise is a lot of fun and that you get to see a lot of things, especially if you don't have much time in the city. There are lots of good stories about the Eiffel Tower. There's a bunker, for example, under the Champ de Mars, the big field at its feet. It's not used anymore, but the military worked and used the Eiffel Tower. The TSF, wireless transmission services, this is how Eiffel saved the tower, by working with the military and paying for this antenna out of his pocket, practically. And there's an underground bunker still under the Champ de Mars, which you cannot visit, unfortunately, unless you know people. Across from it is the Trocadero, the famous Trocadero. This was a happening place during all the world fairs. Paris has hosted 7 between the 19th and the 20th century. You have, whoops, chord again. You have fountains. Fountains and water cannons. We can't see it very well from here, but I'm sure you've been there now. One of the most ambitious plans the city of Paris has before the Olympic Games is to completely transform the Trocadero, the fountain area, this bridge, and then the area by the Eiffel Tower. Everything is going to be re-landscaped, végétalisé, as they say now, and pedestrianized. So even the bridge will be pedestrianized. If you come in 2024, this area is going to look very different. If you come before 2024, like in a few months or in a few weeks, it's a bit of a mess with construction sites everywhere. And that's kind of the theme in Paris right now. I guess we need to be patient to see what comes out of that in 2024 for the Olympic Games, huh? It's not the first time in its history Paris is seeing remodels, restorations, and construction, let me tell you that. Now, if you've asked questions in the feed and I haven't seen them or replied to them, I'm on a TGV, a high-speed train tomorrow on the 1st, heading home to 2, and I will take a look and try and answer your questions, okay? So I apologize. I was focusing on the camera and the sights. Lots to show here. How about this to wish you a happy, happy new year? I don't know about the mutton fat to grease the elevator mechanism, but I know they hand paint it pretty much still now. 50 painters working on it every 7 years. I wouldn't be surprised if they did use that special fat to do it. We have some incredible buildings here, and that makes sense because we are in the 16th arrondissement, one of the chicest and poshest areas in Paris. High-end real estate. He's turning and taking us back to the dock now. People are really excited because they get to see everything at night. I'm going to try and show you Mademoiselle Eiffel as much as I can. So when you come back, you'll discover and look at you, you're so lucky. I was hoping it would happen. Every hour on the hour, she sparkles for 5 minutes, and voila, just for you, friends with Véro community. Happy New Year, everyone. One of the best shows in town.
Seine has always been the main artery of Paris. Revived in 1949,
the metro going by.
The Bâteaux Mouches have brought back river transport, combining tradition with up-to-dateness.
Okay, I'm actually stepping in a lot of water, and that wake we had earlier must have been huge. I'm so glad it's twinkling for you. No, Bruce, I do not have connections. I think we just lucked out. Or maybe the virtual tour guide, the gods of virtual tour guiding took pity on me for having to deal with tons of logistical issues during all these live tours constantly. Pardon, magical word in Paris. I'm gonna be here. Oh, dry feet again. Perfect. right, so I'm going to be wrapping up in the next 2 or 3 minutes. You know why? Because I'm meeting a friend tonight. My work day is done almost, and I'm going to have some fun. So it wouldn't be a Parisian evening for me without a theater play or a show at the theater. I love the theater in Paris. A friend and I are going to a new theater in the 16th arrondissement to see a new show, very popular show dedicated to Josephine Baker, one of my idols for a really long time. It's called Josephine B. It's a musical, and I will be watching this show in a little over an hour, so I'm quite excited about that. I'll be running there after this. She is beautiful, isn't she? Never gets old. I'm waiting for her to, I'm getting closer to the dock here. Just want to say a little hello in person. Let's see. Can you still see her behind me? That's going to be hard to do. Oh well. I'll be in the dark then. I just want to say thank you for following me this year, for supporting this business of mine, for sharing what I do on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, everywhere. If you'd like to encourage me to do more of these free tours, consider joining the Friends with Véro Club, La Bande de Véro, on Patreon for a few dollars a month. You will get a lot of exclusive live events, interactions with other members who are great travelers. They are starting to meet in their corners of the world as well. A lot of fun stuff happening. You can find me on Patreon for that. It really is the base of this business, and it helps me run it. And at any rate, I want to say Happy New Year, bonne année, as we say in France. I know this has been another challenging one, but I am an optimist, and I think things are going to keep improving. And I will be seeing you in 2022, no matter what COVID throws at us. I will figure it out. About a year ago, I was live streaming from Lille in the middle of a lockdown with all the restaurants and cafes and shops closed, and we still had a great time. The city was lit up, and it was wonderful. I'll keep doing this while I can. I'll be running tours with Rick Steves as well. I'll be guiding for Rick Steves. I'll be teaching French. I'll be very busy in 2022, and that is just how I like it. Let me switch around and give you one last peek at this incredible lady. Past the bridge, you'll see her better. I think they've cheered every single bridge. Yes. One last peek at Mademoiselle Eiffel in all of her glory. That landmark that so many French people didn't like when it was built. Can you believe it? Can you imagine Paris without it? Thank you to my club members, my patrons, for all the kind messages. Thank you so much for your support this year. Without you, none of this would be happening. I would be out and about tonight, certainly not doing this.